Hey there! Taking you through the journey of creating my cadet for Chroma Corp's 2025, Peach. Peach was originally a character made for our thesis game Apocalypso, which is a parkour game. She is very bubbly and friendly, but also easily distracted from her objectives, which is to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. From this, I had three main keywords that I tried to stick to in the creation of her character design. The first is speedy, the second being round, and the third, as her name implies, peachy. Starting us off with the references, there were certain parts of the silhouette that I really wanted to have, mainly the robotic heavy lower body and the wheels that function as roller skates. These traits were carryovers from her very first iterations, so I really wanted to keep them, which is why many of my references reflected this. Then for silhouettes, I did explorations here in Procreate that unfortunately didn't get recorded, but I chose the silhouette that I thought resonated with those three keywords the most. I did a very rough sketch of her on top of that silhouette, and then I jumped straight into color explorations. I used gradient maps to experiment with her color schemes, and when I arrived at something satisfactory, I went to work. I have to apologize here because my footage of the early blocking stages was also, unfortunately, corrupted. Anyway, I'm beginning with the shapes. I'm not using a base mesh because I really wanted to get familiar with how it actually feels to make the shapes of a human body from beginning to end. As of this stage, I'm still concerned with the blocking out of the shapes, the anatomy, and the silhouette of the model. It's very easy to make the mistake of tunnel visioning on one point of view, so I'm trying to check how the model looks from different angles to make sure I'm still following anatomy correctly. I'm adding in a sphere here, then using the snake hook brush with Sculptress activated so I can block in her hair and define a rough shape of the strands through the damn standard brush. I'm still keeping it loose and rough though, we're still in the block out stage after all. Then I'm adding some color to the eyes just for visualization purposes. Some were corrupted footage along the way. I had actually done an initial pass of her mechanical legs, which I'm showing here, but it wasn't satisfying to me at all. I felt that it was too sharp, too angular, and it directly countered her second keyword, which is round. So what you're seeing now is my redo of the shape. The hard surface workflow is all about blocking and then masking cleanly, extracting, zero meshing, and then adding subdivision levels before adding details, like insets or extrusions. Rinse and repeat for every hard surface mesh that you have to do for your character or prop. This stage contains a lot of repetitive manual work to make sure it's a clean sculpt all around. You have to rotate your model in every angle, see how the light catches in the forms, use not very visually appealing materials like bump viewer mat and the like, just to make sure it's really clean from every angle. It's a lot of fumbling through menus, so I've sped up the footage, otherwise it's 30 minutes of the 3D equivalent of watching paint dry. Honestly, now that I'm seeing myself in action and cutting up the footage, I really should have arranged my ZBrush UI to accommodate the most frequent functions I use so that I wouldn't have to jump around the menus so much. I'm noticing it takes so much time to do what I want to do solely because I have to navigate the UI, and this is time that I could have saved if I made a more intuitive UI for myself beforehand. Hopefully by my next video, I'll have this sorted out. I wasn't making very meaningful progress with the mechanical legs, so I decided to move on to other parts for the meantime. There's nothing fancy here. For the body, I just connected the body meshes and used Dynamesh before sculpting the muscle forms using clay buildup and damp standard. These clothes are just masked and extracted from the body mesh, which I then sculpted on top of. Being a stylized piece, I also try to follow stylized folds. They're very exaggerated, large, triangular shapes, similar to Overwatch. I used clay buildup, orb cracks, and damp standard for these folds. did some more blocking out of the hair shapes using the Dam Standard and Orb Cracks brush. Then I extracted the bangs part before I started putting in the strands using the IMM Curves brush. Extracting the bangs was just to have an easier time laying the IMM curves down. They get very tricky to handle when there's large shifts in the mass, like for example where the bangs are much shorter than the rest of the hair. After laying all the strands down for the bangs, I dynameshed them all together and started defining them. By the way, when you're dealing with multiple separated meshes within one subtool, you can use the Move Topological brush to move individual parts around without having to split the mesh into different subtools. Here, I'm using it for the different strands of her hair, so I can move the individual strands without having to split the subtool into different meshes or isolate each polygroup. It's far easier to iterate on the silhouette this way. Then, as usual, I dynamesh, then sculpt. It's the same process for the back of the hair, except I used much larger strands of hair. The reasoning for this is that the noisier a part of your artwork is, the more attention is drawn to it. So, in deciding which parts have the most detail, you're leading the viewer's eye and practicing composition even in 3D character art. By reducing details in the back part of her hair, I can guide the viewer's eyes to the front where the most important part is, which is the face. By this time, I felt that the abdominal and calves area was empty, but I didn't really know how to resolve this. When I'm feeling stuck, I just take a screenshot of my model and port it into my painting software of choice. This time, I'm using Procreate, and then I draw over it. In this draw over, I tried to fix the issues I mentioned earlier, but I also noticed that overall the third keyword, peach, was lacking in her design. So the draw over added extra details in those areas and a lot of peach shapes to her. Back to ZBrush and back to the normal playback speed, I'm adding a rough block out of hands right now. It's a bunch of cylinders duplicated, then dynameshed and sculpted over. Then I started sculpting the new mechanical forms I gave her in the draw-over. These bevels in the abdomen added some interesting variety to her and also helped further sell the idea that she's a machine. Cleaning up this part was far easier now that I have the experience from the mechanical legs. First, I shape it through the clay buildup and damp standard brush. Then I mask the beveled area, polygroup it, then zero mesh with the Keep Polygroups option turned on. I'm doing the same thing for the rest of the parts. Then it was time to add in the peachy shapes to her. I'm making the shape of the peach, adding thickness to it through panel loops, then warping it around the side of her thigh. Then I used a subtractive boolean for it against the legs. I'm also reusing this peach shape for the wheels and using another subtractive boolean to it as well. The knee joint was so much easier. I used local symmetry to mask out the shape of a peach, extract it, and then add thickness through panel loops again, and done. I also thought the transition from the legs to the peach inset on her thighs was a bit too sudden, so I masked out a peach shape again around that area and I made it into a border. It's finally time to color her in. This was the part I was looking forward to the most. Off camera, I had already messed around with some shaders as I was trying to go for a shader that was stylized and looks 2D. I'm using the paint brush here in ZBrush, and I also use the spotlight tool to eyedrop the colors from the concept art onto her. I also used the poly groups I made earlier during the sculpting stage to my advantage, so I could fill in the shadows easily. Honestly, for how long it took to get up to this point, it sure went by fast. I'm very sorry about the warmer footage here as well. I think my temperature levels just auto-adjusted somewhere during recording. painting, it was just a matter of posing and rendering and compiling the renders into Photoshop, and we're done. If I had more time to dedicate to this, I would make her design less symmetrical and probably redo the hair. Though I love it personally, it ended up being far too noisy for how simple everything else is. The layout is also something I want to focus on for next year's chroma course. I felt I didn't dedicate enough time exploring more interesting layouts. All important lessons, but I'm glad Peach has survived another iteration. And though it was my first time participating, I made it to standouts. I hope you all enjoyed this journey of character design, and I'll see you around next time.